Do you remember this?
This is the Crosby Garrett helmet, lot 176.
And finally, for this morning, ladies and gentlemen, the Crosby Garrett helmet showing here on my left, and can be started at £150,000. 150, thank you sir. 60, 170, 180, 190, 2,000, 850,000, 900,000, 9 in the room, 950,000, £1 million, £1,900,000, at 1,000,009. Rounded up midgets at 1,000,009 at the moment, £2 million, at 2 million. Sure, sir, thank you, 2 million, 2 million. Sold, 956. Thank you very much.
That, of course, was the Crosby Garrett Roman helmet found in a Cumbrian field selling for £2 million back in 2010. It was one of the most spectacular pieces of treasure ever unearthed by an enthusiast with a metal detector. That said, though, it might have been outdone. A group in Somerset has found more than 2,500 coins that date back to the Battle of Hastings. They are thought to be worth millions. Let's have a word now with Graham Rushton from Unearthed UK in Dalton-in-Furness. Graham's been a keen metal detectorist for nigh on 40 years. Graham, good morning. This find in Somerset was made back in January. Details now just coming to light. As a keen detectorist, what do you make of it?
Well, good morning, and thanks very much for having me on. The find was spectacular, or is spectacular. We were amazed by the sheer amount of coins that were unearthed on that particular day by the group of detectorists. And what's mostly interesting about the find is it's late Saxon, early Norman kings, which is a period of real unrest in England at the time. We can only speculate what the hoard was buried for. Was it used for, a payoff against enemies? There's a whole host of different reasons why that hoard was buried. And, of course, it captures people's imagination at the same time, you see. So a truly wonderful find. Whether you want to put it alongside the Crosby Garrett helmet or not, I don't know, but I still think the helmet does it for me, because obviously it's a Cumbrian find and it's local to us, so it's always going to be a special one for us all to celebrate. But the hoard, it's going to be worth up to £5 million, which is an amazing amount of money. But let's not forget that these guys that found it did the right thing. They recorded it with the archaeologists. They had a dig on there. Everything was done correctly. The coins were uncovered, and now they're in the safe hands of the museum.
What is it about metal detecting you've been, as we said, you've been doing it for nigh on 40 years. What is it that keeps you going back and back in time again? Is it the hope of finding that amazing piece of treasure, that one item?
The reason why I do it personally is because I love uncovering history. That's the first and foremost. The value of things is immaterial in so much as, I've been doing it for 40 years. I haven't really found things worth significant amount of money, but for us, as a group, we don't really do it for that reason. We do it because we know that there's coins and artefacts out there that haven't seen the light of day for thousands of years in some cases, and it's just the uncovering of history. And I always put it to, in a nutshell, it's the nearest thing to time travel you could possibly get, because some of these coins and artefacts we're finding obviously haven't been touched by human hand for thousands of years in some cases.
That's a really good way of describing it. I'd never thought of it like that.
Well, it captivates people's imagination. Even when I was a child, I was always beach combing up and down Walney Beach in South Cumbria with my father, looking for fossils and sea urchins and other things. And then, of course, metal detectors came out for the public to buy more and more in the 70s and the 80s, and then we just got absolutely hooked on finding ancient coins and artefacts. But just remember, it's worth remembering, of course, that we've got to abide by the rules and regulations for detecting, and we've got to make sure we gain permission to search on farmers' land first and foremost. So it's not just about wandering everywhere and everywhere you can to find these things. You've got to make sure you do your research, and also make sure you've got the permission to search in the first place.
Just out of interest, because you're absolutely right in doing everything properly, if you get permission to go on someone's land and you did find something of value, how does the ownership of that work? Is it the landowners? Is it yours, finders keepers, or is it probably just split down the middle 50-50?
Well, if it's a single coin, which is not classed as treasure, so it doesn't have to go through the treasure process, then usually what happens is that the detectorist and the landowner have a 50-50 agreement. We always get that in place with our landowners to say, listen, if there's anything found of value on the land, a coin, then it will be split 50-50. However, if you do or are lucky enough to unearth a treasure, a hoard or a particular gold ring from the Roman times, etc., then that artifact or group of coins has to go through something called the treasure process, which is quite a simplistic process to go through, but it's got to be done in the correct manner. So it's got to be recorded, it's got to be flagged up to the local museum or the coroner's office or even the local fines liaison officer, which Cumbria has got one. It's got to make sure it's been recorded properly. So it's a very interesting hobby, and there's more and more people taking up detecting. We're finding a heck of a lot of people, especially in Cumbria in the north, buying metal detectors, going out there looking for treasure, hoping that they can find a nice coin and artifact, but it's all about uncovering history for us. And of course, a lot of our detecting that we do personally is on arable land. So a lot of the coins and artifacts are in the first couple of inches of the plough soil. So we're really saving these artifacts and coins from destruction from modern farming techniques. So that's an important point to make, I think.
Finally, I can't have you on, Graham, without asking you, what's been your best find, your greatest find?
I've been lucky enough to find many, many nice coins and artifacts over the years. And last year I had a particularly lucky streak where I found a King Stephen and Matilda penny, which are extremely rare and desirable coins. That was one that's going to stand out in my mind for a long time. But I also managed to luckily find a linchpin from a Celtic chariot. So that was in the form of an eagle's head, which was quite an important find. But I can go back to the days when I used to find things like Roman gold coins, and I've managed to even find a Saxon gold pendant in 2013, which went through the Treasure Act and now is in a museum in Lincolnshire. So there's many, many nice things out there, but I must stress that people have got to do it correctly and abide by the rules and regulations and the laws.
Absolutely, you've made that point, Graham. Thank you for being on. Graham Rushton from Unearthed UK in Dalton-in-Furness, who's been a keen metal detectorist for 40 years.